What's up, you beautiful fucks? It's me, Danny. I'll be honest with you guys. I'm tired. This is like the 4th time I tried to record this. So, just to get this out of the way, I'm finally doing this video of where I give my opinions on the Godzilla toy companies that are either still around or some of them are now no longer making these lines. It's not every company out there, because that'd be too long of a video to make, but it's most of them. The more popular ones, I should say. So, without further ado, let's just get right into it. Side note, this is my opinion. You might agree. You might not agree. That's okay. You don't have to agree with me. Feel free to share your beloved opinions down below and let the world know how you feel or why you think I'm an idiot for feeling the way I feel. I won't get hurt. Anyway, moving on to the first company, which is Bandai Movie Monster Series. I'm going to try to keep all of my opinions kind of brief. I don't want to make a long video. So I'll say this. Movie Monster Series is my favorite line. It's the main line I collect. I am a huge fan of just having simple, sturdy, cheap figures. Cheap for figures that come from Japan. I can justify those prices. If they were sold in the States for those prices that I pay, I'd be a little bit more like, ah! But for imported figures, it's not a bad price. I would love to see them be sold here in the States. I know there's some appearing on Amazon now up for pre-order, but those are figures that have been on Amazon for a few years now. Bandai themselves is just now officially selling them on there. I would like to see newer releases and some of the more recent releases as well appear on Amazon. That would be, I think, a much better approach than releasing stuff that's been on the market for a while. But still, Bandai Movie Monster Series holds a place in my heart. It's my favorite line to collect. Moving on. Trendmasters. So I'm going to be honest, I might make some people mad with this one because I know a lot of you probably started off with Trendmasters when you were younger. But I'm not a big fan of most of their figures. That goes for their 98 line and for their, like Doom Island, or not the Doom Island specifically. That's actually one of my favorites. But some of their other, Godzilla Toho lines. I'm just not a big fan of some of their design choices, some of the colors, some of the, character depictions. But they did have some cool ideas, like Doom Island, and some of their 98 stuff was actually pretty nice. I do have 2 of their 6-inch, I think it's like the missile launcher 98 Zillas. Those are cool, so I do have to give credit where credit is due. But some of their stuff I've had in the past and I've sold it. It's just not something I'm all that into. But you might like it. That's okay. We're all here to have our own opinions and our own feelings. But you probably feel that way because you had those when you were a kid. Maybe. I didn't have those as a kid, though. What I did had is this next company. What I did had. Is that even proper grammar? What I did has. Who gives a shit? I'm tired. I'm about ready to flip this laptop into the TV screen in front of me. I'm getting violent. We're moving on to the toy company I did have when I was a kid, because they were actually sold here in the States, which is Bandai Creations, Bandai America. I don't give a fuck what you want to call it, because I tried looking it up and I could not find an answer. Everyone just called it Bandai Creations back then. So these guys, they made up my childhood because they were cheap, they were sturdy. Things I liked about the Movie Monster series, even though I didn't have Movie Monster series when I was a kid. These are the things I liked, though, because Bandai Creations doing it here in the States, and they had good figures, a decent selection of monsters. They had a good variety of monsters. My only issue with them, though, and I think we all kind of seen this because I know some of you probably had these as well, they're not always the most screen accurate. Sometimes they're pretty way off, which is kind of one of the issues I had with some of the Trendmasters. But as a kid, it was just nice to have Godzilla figures that you can go to Kmart for, and they were like $8 or something like that. So I can't complain too much. They're definitely better than a certain other company who started making them, at least when that company started making them out the gate. We'll get into that later. But all in all, Bandai Creations was pretty good. They weren't Movie Monster Series good, but they were still pretty good. Up next, YMSF. I got into them pretty late. I'm not gonna lie. They were making those figures for years. I didn't get into them until I really started getting into collecting, which is like in 2020, 2019 maybe. But I'm glad I found them. They can be pricey, but what I really admire about YMSF is that they take risk by doing things that Bandai and other companies do not do. Like their Orga in like the eating mode, where you try to eat Godzilla. They did Behemoth from King of the Monsters. They did Kumanga, which I don't even think we have any other Kumanga 6-inch figure from like Bandai, aside from maybe like the Trendmasters one. But that's super rare unless you want to pay like $300 for that one. And again, that's like Doom Island, I think. So it looks like a tank. So YMSF, they do things that other companies do not. They're much more limited though. Smaller quantities. Usually have to follow them on like Instagram or Facebook, and they'll send out a post saying, "Hey, we just made like 100 of these or whatever. They're up for sale." And again, they can be a little pricey, but they are from Japan, and they're typically figures you can't find anywhere else of kaiju that don't really get made all that often. Gabra's another one that they did, which is just amazing. So the price, in my opinion, is kind of worth it for what you get. Up next, NECA, may you rest in peace. We miss you. Solid figures for a solid price. They're like $20-25. They were the collector, they're kind of sturdy, but they were those type of figures that if they fell off your shelf, there's a chance that the arm would explode or a joint could break if you tried moving it, but it was really stiff, which I'm not a huge fan of. Heftier figures, I think is a way to say it. They're hefty. But for collectors, they are just for that price point, but they were great. Now the only downside, which wasn't really their fault, I think it was just with the issue with their licensing and all that. They didn't have a huge variety. Everything they did was just Godzilla himself, different incarnations of Godzilla. So I left a lot to be desired, but again, I think that wasn't really their fault. I think they were kind of being constrained. Perhaps it's because there's another company out there that I'll talk about, which I don't think fondly of, but I would have really loved to see NECA do other monsters. They did do Rodan and Mothra from King of the Monsters, but I'm talking like it would have been really cool to see them do some classic Toho monsters. But unfortunately, we weren't able to see that. May they rest in peace. They're still out there, but they just don't do Godzilla. SH Monster Arts. I mean, straight up, I don't like them. Some of you may love them. That's fine. I don't. They're very pricey. I know they're Kong and Godzilla from Godzilla vs. Kong were some of the cheaper ones I've seen. They're about like $60. But I just don't like the design on some of them. I don't think some people like the way they look. I think some of those figures just look bad. Their Monster X and their new Gigan that may or may not be out by now. Those look good, but those are like $100-something. They don't really come with that many accessories. Some of them don't come with accessories at all. So it's just like, I'm not paying that. I'm sorry. And some of them are all, like I saw the Godzilla 2004 was extremely fragile, just breaking if you just try to move the wrong joint. I can't get behind that for the price. No. Again, if you like them, that's fine. I just can't get into them. This Mothra right here, this was cheap. It's a bootleg. I'm not gonna lie. I also have the Rodan that came with it. They're both bootlegs. I paid like $20 for them, and I think that was enough for me. I was like, all right, I had my fill. But I would have preferred NECA to have a chance to do some of the monsters they did. Their Biollante looked cool, but it was like almost $300, which I was not paying. But yeah, sorry, just can't get into them. Playmates, sweet Jesus. We're gonna say right now, out the gate, they didn't come swinging. In fact, they fell down out the gate and broke their kneecaps. By God, my God, these figures looked terrible. And they took other molds and just like, I remember they had Bandai Creation figures, like the last few that were coming out, and they just stamped their logo on top of the Bandai engraving, And I think I actually have one of my Mecha Godzillas is a Playmates reissue of a Bandai one. And I looked at it, and they really did just stamp on a Playmates logo. You still see the Bandai logo because they just took the mold. And then they also, for their Shin Godzilla here, they took a NECA Shin Godzilla and then made it into a cheaper plastic, and this is what we get. It is terrible, but so terrible that I had to get it. But yeah, they shit themselves coming out the gate. But they did get better. Their Gorosaurus, one of my favorites. Rodan, solid figure. Their Baragon, solid figure. And then they canceled the Toho line. Rest in peace. So they were just getting good. Unfortunately, it came to an end. But they're also cheap, in a good way. They're sturdy. So again, qualities I like. Cheap, sturdy. The Monsterverse line is pretty good as well, but unfortunately, I don't think the Monsterverse line has reached its full potential. It seems to heavily rely on Godzilla and Kong reissues. There's much more monsters out there that I want to see. They have a new Titan Tech Rodan, that's cool, but yeah, they need to kind of dip their toes. Like there was nothing made for the Kong Skull Island anime. No Kraken, no Kong, no Dog. There other monsters from King of the Monsters are just not showing up. They're not really taking any risks. They're playing it way too safe, and I feel like it's kind of hurting them more because no one's really interested in buying more issues of Godzilla and Kong over and over again. We wanted other monsters, and it would have been nice to see them continue the Toho line because it seemed like they were just getting good, but then it was canceled. Maybe because Bandai wants to put the Movie Monster series here in the States. Maybe. I don't know the politics of it, but unfortunately, Playmates, similar to NECA, was just getting good, or NECA was kind of already good, but you know what I mean. Playmates was just getting good, and then cut short. And if they want to continue the Monsterverse line, great, but stop holding back, let it all out. Hiya, we'll keep this simple. As much as I'm not a big fan of the heavier plastics and all the moving parts, Hiya, you're changing my mind on that. Everything they've done so far, it's a masterpiece. They have yet to miss. They have good prices, fantastic figures. They are just ripped straight off the screen. I cannot complain. I honestly don't think we deserve them. They are just that good, and they have so many other figures coming out. They're doing a Muto figure. Finally, thank God, they have the balls to do it. They have the balls to do things that other companies do not. They're almost like YMSF, not fully there yet, but almost there. Do a Behemoth, okay? Do a Methuselah, do something like that. Do some of the monsters in the comics. Then you'll have my respect. But I mean, they kind of already do, but have even more respect. But hiya, gotta love them. Keep it coming. All right, lastly, SuperSeven. I don't have anything here to represent them, so I'm not going to be too harsh on them. I do have a Biollante sitting in my pile of loot on Big Bad Toy Store. I also have pre-ordered Mechagodzilla and Burgundy Godzilla directly from their website, and those should be in September, they said. But I am still going to include them in this video because I've seen some videos and some pictures, some other reviews of the Biollante and the Godzilla, which I did not pick up, and I don't plan to now, because I'm going to say this, $85, and the way those figures look, it's not rubbing off good on me. I almost considered canceling my pre-orders for some of the other figures coming out later, like Destroya and the Meltdown Godzilla, but I still kept them. I'm hoping some things will change. I'm just not a big fan of the glossy stuff and the price point. It just the way the figure looks and the price they're charging does not match up in my mind. Again, I'm going to hold some judgment until I'm holding the Biollante and the other ones in my hand, but I'm a little worried, especially with that Destroya, because that's a little bit more expensive. That's about $100-something. I'm just really hoping they can, I noticed if they maybe were a bit more honest with their marketing. I've heard some people try to justify it and say, oh, well, things change in production, It's yeah, but other companies have shown us production images that are pretty much identical to what the final product is. The problem with SuperSeven is they kept showing us figures and images of like a really matte colored finish figure, especially of like the Godzilla and the Biollante. They all look like they had better paint jobs that were more of a matte, not really that glossy. And the figures are shipped out, and they're very shiny. And you know what? So maybe, ooh, almost burped. Excuse me. Oh God. Sorry. But maybe it would not have been as big of a deal if they had shown like, hey, here's the final product. Like, before we ship these out, here's what the final product is going to look like. It's going to have a little bit of a gloss going on. This is the style that we're going for. This is what you guys are going to get. A little bit more transparency would have been appreciated. But it seems like they were kind of holding that back for whatever reason. Maybe they didn't think it would be a big deal, but it certainly has rubbed a lot of people off the wrong way. Not everyone. Some people really like that. And that, again, that's fine if you like it. That's your opinion. Personally, me, though, I do not plan to pick up that Godzilla. Hopefully, things can get better. I've seen a picture of the Destroyer. It also does not look that good, in my opinion, especially for that price. But hopefully, things change. And I'll definitely have, because again, I already paid for the Burning Godzilla and the Mecha Godzilla, so I'll definitely be getting those. And the Biollante is going to come in eventually soon. I'm just waiting for something else, but hopefully things change there. That is all for this video. Those are all my opinions. Again, you might disagree. That's fine. Don't try to hang me or put me in a guillotine. Just share your own opinions down below. Maybe you agree, maybe you don't, and that's perfectly fine. They're just my thoughts. They're just toys. We don't need to get too violent about it. You know, except some of these are really expensive. SH Monstars, Jesus Christ. But, all in all, it's just fun to be a collector. Collect what you like, not what you don't. Don't let people tell you what to do. My favorite is still Movie Monster series, hands down. Gotta love them. And I gotta put a pre-order out for some more figures. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Hopefully I'll have the Pacific Rim one out tomorrow as well. Hope you all take care, and I'll see you all next time.